I covered this up last night to protect it from the freeze, but it was a little on the breezy side whenever I covered it, so I was afraid this might happen. The same thing happened in the back with a lilac bush, so I'm really hoping that it doesn't ruin them for blooming this season. This one's completely uncovered. And I bet it happened shortly after I covered them too, because I was fighting the wind whenever I was covering them. So it's probably been like this all night. And unfortunately, when plants come back to life early and they've budded out like this, and then they get a freeze, flowering plants like this, this is a lilac bush, and then the one in the front was the hydrangea, they tend to just either they don't bloom at all or they get very few flowers on them. So we're gonna have another freeze again tonight. It's supposed to get down to 25. So I'm gonna hope really hard that we don't have wind today. We shouldn't, because the cold front kind of blew in last night, right? So tonight it should not be windy. So I'm hoping that at least the second night I can keep them covered and maybe we'll be okay, but we'll know in a few weeks. I'm working on the roasted cauliflower tortilla soup, and my cauliflower is almost done, so I'm getting the other veggies kind of chopped and ready to start sauteing in this pot behind me. Then I have all of my other ingredients out over here waiting, so I should be able to just kind of toss everything together. I'm going to go ahead and finish chopping up this stuff and get it going. Going to go ahead and add these scraps to my little compost bin too, or my little, it's I guess more of a jar than a bin, but I will, when it's full, take that out and throw it in the compost bin. All right, so the cauliflower gets served on top of the soup, but I'm going to go ahead and put it all in the container together because I don't want to have like 3 separate containers storing all of this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And then
instead of a lime, I had 3 lemons left, so I'm going to go ahead and use a lemon. But you also kind of squeeze that on just when you serve, but I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze it all in now. So we'll have it all together and set, and then all I'll need to do is toast up my corn tortilla before I'm ready to eat it. All right, so this is my alternative to buying store-bought corn tortilla chips. And the reason I did that is because the corn tortilla chips in the bag are made with oil and salt, and these do not have either of those ingredients. Now, it does have a couple of preservatives in it. I wish that it didn't, but again, this is one of those situations where when you're in a smaller town, your access to things can sometimes be limited. So when I look at this versus pre-made tortilla chips, you're essentially getting the same thing, only this one comes without the added fat and salt. So I'm going to stick with this one. All right, I'm gonna head off and eat my lunch. I think it could have baked maybe just a few minutes longer. But honestly, it turned out really good. And don't have to deal with, making or starting a sourdough starter, fermenting, going through the process, making sure you're adding the right amount of each thing to keep feeding it. And you don't have to knead the dough. You just whip up the batter in just a few minutes and you leave it sit overnight. And then you throw it in the oven in the morning and bake it. Like, this was easy. And I feel like this method I can use all the time and I'll be content with it. Like, that's been the thing that's prevented me from getting into bread making, because I am a busy person and I do a lot already. And so I feel like I don't need to add something else to my regimen that is a lot of work. So this is something I think I could stick to. And so the recipe is actually for a seeded bread, which I didn't put any seeds on this one, but I could going forward if I want to. But right now I have chia seeds, which I don't feel like would be the best on bread. I have hemp seeds, which are expensive, so I didn't want to use that. And then, maybe something go wrong and it not turn out well and have wasted a lot of that. And then I have ground flax, but not whole flax seeds. So if I was going to do this, I may get like some whole flax seeds. I do have some pepitas too that I could use, and just throw some seeds together, probably sesame seeds, mix them together, roll the dough in it, and then bake it. But honestly, I don't even know if I need to do seeded bread, because I like it like this. So I think this will be a good recipe to use from now on. And I will definitely link it for you guys down below if you want to try it, because it's the easiest bread recipe I think I've ever seen. And it turned out pretty good.
I will say this is one caveat to the sourdough though, before I end this whole bread making segment. I will continue to buy probably just the small loaves of sourdough from our local place and eat on that throughout the week too, because the benefit to the sourdough bread is that sourdough starter is fermented, which means sourdough bread is fermented, and that fermentation process has a lot of good microbial benefits for your gut health that regular bread isn't going to be able to deliver, because regular bread like this, like it was just yeast, wheat flour, and some salt, which I will probably either omit or cut the salt in half the next time I make it. But at any rate, that fermented sourdough starter gives a big boost to your microbiome that regular bread just isn't able to provide. So that is the added benefit to sourdough. It obviously just does take more work to make it. So to each his own on that, but I think this is a great bread recipe to use. I will, however, still continue to eat sourdough, just probably not as much as I was, because the large loaves of sourdough at my local place are $8. The smaller one is $5. And I made this for like pennies, right? So, or well, I should say pennies a slice, because the yeast I think was only roughly $2 for a packet of 3 of them. And then the flour is like $5, $6 for the whole bag of it. So, I mean, I could make a lot of loaves of bread for the amount of money I spend on one loaf buying it. But anyway, all of that aside, success with the recipe.
I was on the phone with Michael this morning on his way to work, and I came in here and said good morning to my plants. He was like, "Are you talking to your plants?" And I said, "Yeah, because studies have shown that if you talk to your plants, it encourages them to grow." And so he started telling me about a study that he had read about where they tested different kinds of music with plant growth, and that heavy metal actually seemed to be the winner. And it kind of makes sense, because heavy metal is probably going to have the most vibration, but I'm not a heavy metal fan. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to turn on some pop punk for my plants this morning. So currently they are listening to a little All Time Low.
You probably couldn't see it on camera because this is just far enough away, but after I stirred it up and I pulled the lid back open, you could see steam coming up out of it. So that is a great sign. That means it's getting nice and hot in there and everything is starting to break down nicely.
Hello and welcome back to the meal planning week 2. So I've already kind of thrown everything together, so it won't be quite as long of an introduction as last week was, but I will share what I'm looking at here with you. Let me go ahead and just start a screen record. Okay, so I've already set this up, and honestly, I was going to go through it and set it up with you, but I already recorded this whole thing and then realized that I had never hit the screen record, so this is already done and I didn't get to record it. So you can see here I'm doing black bean salsa for myself. And actually, I did just think of something that I'm going to put on the shopping list so what I do with the black bean salsa, rather than using it as a dip, I like to use it as a salad. So I will get some greens. So I will put them over top of a bed of greens and then sprinkle with red wine vinegar and eat it as a salad. And so I've got the greens that way. I have the beans. So corn is really, it's more of a grain than a vegetable, right? So I'll have a grain. So all of that stuff will be set. And honestly, I still have, since I bought those corn tortillas this week, I have a ton of corn tortillas. And so with something like this, I can still, again, cut my own tortilla chips, put them in the air fry them up for just a couple of minutes, and then they'll be nice and crispy, and I can crumble those on top, or I can scoop the black bean salsa with that and eat it. So both options work. But I am going to add greens to the list. And then I will also go ahead and put the corn tortillas on the list in case anyone would like to use that option. So that is it. So this recipe, I'm going to link the blog post for this down below because there are a ton of black bean salsa recipes out there, and you can go out and find any of them that you want to. This particular one is one that a coworker had brought in when we had food days at work back forever ago when I still worked in the office, and she emailed me the recipe. So I can't credit the original creator because I have no idea where she got it from. So what I did do is go ahead and type it up in a recipe post in Canva. I downloaded that as the PDF format so that I could put it into my blog post as a PDF so that it is downloadable for any of you who would like to save that recipe. But I do really like that one, but you could use any that you want. I think I'll go ahead and add ground cumin on here, even though I already have some, just to make sure, anyone who might be using this knows everything that they need. And then for my son, who is not plant-based, I'm going to make him pork tenderloin, and then we're going to do a potatoes au gratin, but I'm doing the plant-based version because I make it that way and he likes it just fine. And so that is essentially just sliced potatoes and then the cashew cheese sauce that I shared last week. So I will also, if you are interested in that, I will link, or actually maybe it was 2 weeks ago, because let me think, the video that you're watching now, I just made, the roasted cauliflower soup. So it was the week before when I did the enchiladas, but either way, I can link that video down below for you as well. That way, if you want to go back and watch how I made the cashew cheese sauce, you can. I do also have it as a short on my channel, and then I have it over on my Instagram as well. So either place that you want to look, you can get that. But that's really all that I use is just potatoes and the cashew cheese sauce to make potatoes au gratin. And then I have frozen vegetables in my freezer, so I'll just grab out a bag of those, whichever ones I decide, and open them up and cook them. And then I will put all of it together in one big dish. That way, whenever he goes to eat it, he just scoops whatever he needs out. We don't have 10 containers in the refrigerator. So, and then I've put the ingredients for that as well. I guess I'm debating. I think I'll just I'm debating whether to put the ingredients for the cashew cheese sauce in here. I think I will, just in case anyone is new to this and doesn't have this stuff. But all it is cashews, and then let's see if this will cooperate with me. Oh, gosh darn it. I just love when it does this. There we go. So cashews, lemon juice, nutritional yeast, and then salt, pepper, onion, and garlic powder. That's it. So, which those things people tend to have on hand. So those are going to be the main ingredients that you might need to actually purchase from the store. So that's all there is to it for that. Now, I will also be shopping this week for my Easter items. And as of right now, the blog post that I have started, I put Easter in with the rest of it, but I might actually split it out so that anyone who's coming back to it at a later date can find an Easter menu easier. But so I do pick up my groceries first thing Sunday morning, and I could potentially just go and pick up groceries Sunday morning to make Easter dinner that day. But I always hesitate to do that on a holiday because the stores tend to get picked over, and I'm afraid that if I wait until Sunday morning, they're going to end up being out of stock of a lot of the things that I need. So I am going to go ahead and pick up everything for Easter dinner this weekend as well. So I will go ahead and share with you what our Easter menu is going to look like. So we do have a mix of plant-based and non-plant-based people. So for my main, I am doing chicken and dumplings. That way everybody has something that is kind of catered to them. But then for all of the sides, the appetizers, the dessert, all of that stuff is going to be 100% plant-based so that we have a good mixture for everyone. Now, if you are someone who is 100% plant-based 100% of the time, and you're only focused on yourself, or maybe your family is all plant-based and you don't have to worry about anyone who is not plant-based, you could easily come up with something, bean focused, tofu focused, whatever, for a main dish as well if you'd like. But this is how we are doing it. So I have put everything together here. I'm going to do for fruit and veggie trays, I'm just going to do like apples and pineapple, and then for the veggies I'm going to do broccoli and carrots, and that's going to be it. And then I'm going to make some hummus, and I will pick up just a box of like the Mary's Gone Crackers seed crackers. I do want to practice with making my own seed crackers again. I've done it before and I didn't like the way that it turned out, but I have found some more recipes, so I may try some of that again soon. But it's not going to be when I'm already making a big dinner for a holiday. And then for the berry pie, I'm just going to throw together a bunch of different berries. So I'm going to pick up some fresh strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries, throw them all together and make a pie out of them that way, rather than using my frozen berries, just because I don't want them to get too wet and sloppy. I want to be able to control the moisture. And then here I have put together the shopping list for to go with that menu. So I will have these on my blog as well. I'll probably just go ahead and share both of them on the same day so that they're both up, and then I will link them both below. So if you're interested in anything that is on either one, you will have access to it. I always make my if I do a recipe like I did for the black bean salsa, I will make that PDF format so it's downloadable. I will make this Easter dinner menu and shopping list PDF format so that it is downloadable. So if you're interested in making any of this along with me, feel free to head over to my blog and grab those things so that you will have them as well. But that is going to be it for the meal planning for next week. So go ahead and stop the screen record. And then trying to think if there's anything special that I might do. I did make a banana bread this week that I did not vlog because I was like, man, I've already vlogged 2 things food-wise, and I don't want this entire thing to just be cooking because this is a vlog channel. It's not a cooking channel, right? So I do a little bit of everything. But if I do make that again, I will share it because honestly, the recipe turned out really good. And I don't like banana flavored stuff normally, so banana bread is not something, it's something I will usually shy away from, but I've actually been eating it quite a bit, and I really like how it turned out. So if I do another one of those, I will share it with you. But as of right now, I have no plans beyond the black bean salsa for cooking next week. But honestly, just stick around and you might be surprised, because this week I had not intended on doing homemade bread, really. Like, it was something I had thought about last minute and just threw in. So you just never know what you're going to see. But now I'm going to stop talking before this vlog gets ridiculously long, and I'm going to say goodbye and hope that you'll be back next week to cook this along with me.
So I'm still working on this book. I swear it is just taking forever. Like, I'm on page 303 and I'm only halfway through, and it's such like, it's not tiny print, but it's a lot of print for one page too. So one of these days I'm going to get done with this, but I was just reading a part that I wanted to share with you because it just sounds eerily familiar. So there were unforeseen housing shortages in places like Ashland, Kansas, a village of fewer than 500 at the turn of the century. Inflating along with the wheat boom, a speculative real estate bubble began to expand all across the country. National housing prices rose by around 20%, with residential markets heating up from Florida to Chicago. In a sign of trouble to come, non-farm foreclosures began rising steeply in 1926, the same year that housing starts peaked. Houses had become almost as easy to buy on credit as cars. They too were now being mass-produced. I mean, does that not sound eerily familiar? Like the situation that we're in, it's different, but it's the same all in one. Because now we are experiencing a housing shortage again. And a lot of the reason for that is, private equity firms, investors buying up single family houses and turning them into rental properties. So that is creating a shortage in the market for people who are trying to buy homes, of course. And then we have kind of a construction boom, but it's even struggling to keep up. And that kind of got pushed behind during COVID. But between those two different things, we have created kind of a bubble in the housing market once again. And it's a little concerning because that was 1926. We all know what happened 3 years later. And so thinking about things now, like where are we headed and what is coming? Because between, housing prices are high, food prices are high, gas prices are high, everything that we need to live and to survive is inflated. We have a government that is doing absolutely nothing to regulate anything. And so where are we headed? Like, what is the end game with all of this? Because people just can't afford it anymore. And I have a suspicion that a lot of people have drastically increased credit card debt trying to keep up. And at some point that's going to run out. It's only a matter of time before things hit a point that is truly unsustainable. I mean, we're already in a situation that is not sustainable long term, but the end of that long term is coming closer and closer by the day. And what's going to happen whenever we reach a point where we are truly at a breaking point? That's what I don't know. Are we going to end up in another situation like the Great Depression? I have no idea what to expect, but what I do know is I am still very much adamant about, the fact that we as consumers do have the power. We can refuse to spend our money. We can refuse to give in to, this kind of capitalistic drive for consumerism that happens in this country. I know I said it a few weeks ago and I'll say it again. If we just all collectively come together and decide to stop spending, just for the rest of this year, how much of a difference we could make. Because at the end of the day, if our government isn't going to do anything to protect us, we can protect ourselves, but we have to be willing to do it. We have to be willing to make the sacrifices and be diligent about it. But we can affect the change if we just stop. I plan on spending no money that isn't a necessity. And I mean, yes, that will help our personal finances, but I feel like at this point it's bigger than that. And one thing that I feel really strongly about, and we're not going to sell our houses, Michael and I, yet. We had planned on doing that about a year ago and buying a new house, and then the market, like the bottom dropped out of the housing market, and now everything's expensive and interest rates are high, and so we're not doing that. We're kind of waiting it out. But whenever we do sell our houses, I will not sell my home to an investor, whether it's private equity or whether it's, one of our small town local investors. This house is not going to become a rental property. I refuse to sell to anyone who is not, an individual or family that is going to live here themselves. And I don't know if everyone realizes that that is a power that we have in our hands. If we are selling a house, we don't have to sell it to the highest bidder. Like, we have options and we can choose who we want to sell it to. And just because some investor comes along and offers maybe $10,000 above asking price because they desperately want the property and they're willing to do whatever they have to beat out other people, we can say no. And that's what I intend to do. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting and thought I would share.